So you want to start PC gaming. It's 2026. RAM is $600 for a 2 gig stick, but it was $150 2 years ago. Well, this might be the solution, and we're going to talk about it. I am holding the microphone and also look like absolute crap because it is 101 degrees outside and the house is not cooling very well despite the AC being on 70, and I have 3 fans right now in this room, 2 over here and 1 in the window. So it's gonna be hot. I'm gonna look like crap. I'm sorry. However, we're gonna talk about that thing. And I have been dragging my feet on this because hardware prices have just continued to go up and up and up and up and up. And this was a project I did back in March, fully intending on having a video out before July of 2026, but realistically, there's not really much we can do about that outside of try and wait for prices to go down or wait for a good deal or a sale, which those are not going to happen. CPUs are expensive, RAM's expensive, storage is skyrocketing, and GPUs are also way more expensive than they should be for the performance that they're offering. But the solution may be to look at old or older platforms, used platforms, or new used manufacturing, such as what is inside this. Now, I know that's spooky to some people, and used hardware is scary for some reason, and I don't really understand the thought process as to why, because many of the builds that I do, and I don't really like talking about builds as a subject or a concept, but many of the things that I build are used hardware, things that I've had for a long time, things that I was given from by a friend, or somebody like that. Like this right here, I'm hoping this will make a appearance in a video soon. So it's just a beat up old 1080 Ti. I know that the video outs don't work on this, but we're gonna figure out something to do with it, right? Like, use what you have, refurbish something, right? And that's kind of what this build is. And I am dubbing it because honestly, I love Nikke. It's such a good game and story. But I'm gonna dub this Red Hood because it's old school. It may have a few little rusty parts, but damn, did it perform well over the course of a month. Now, the games that I played, and if you remember, beginning of March, a specific game came out, and I played through the entire thing on stream. That was Resident Evil Requiem. This handled Resident Evil Requiem pretty well on medium high settings. And that says a lot. But let's kind of get into what's in the guts of this thing instead of waxing poetic about, how well it performed, because I have footage for all of it. Editor Dan here. I did completely forget to mention during this section that the Linux distribution we are using is CachyOS, and I had a fantastic time with it, and I do highly recommend it. So I'm going to go and get through the internal component build of this relatively quickly, because again, don't really like to dwell on the build and the parts because it doesn't matter if it doesn't perform. So let's start with the heart of the system, the motherboard, CPU, and RAM. This is not the RAM that I got with the combo because I wanted to have at least 32 gigs of RAM, so that went away. But it purchased as a combo off of AliExpress. So this is one of their X99 motherboard, CPU, and RAM combos. The reason why it is an X99 is because X99 was not a server platform, but it is a micro ATX motherboard, and it came with 16 gigabytes of DDR3 ECC memory. It wouldn't have mattered as much, but I went ahead and on eBay found a 4 stick kit of DDR3 totaling at 32 gigs. It works. I don't care. It works, and it was perfectly fine. I felt like I might need the overhead. The CPU itself is an Intel Xeon 2673 V3, so that's 12 cores, 24 thread. The cool thing about this CPU is it can support either DDR3 or DDR4, and that's kind of a big deal, meaning you could go back to AliExpress and get yourself a new motherboard and some RAM whenever the price has settled down and have a much more performant system. Now the cooler, you do not have to use a Noctua cooler. You can use one of the dirt cheap ones you can get on AliExpress for the LGA 2011 socket. However, I had this one on hand and I got it at a garage sale in box, brand new, for $10. Many times you can find some really, really good stuff at garage sales for not a lot of money. Now, so motherboard, CPU, RAM, cooler, GPU. The GPU in this is a RTX 2070 Aorus Extreme, so 8 gigs of VRAM, probably a 1080p card now with modern games, but this whole setup ran wonderfully. And I guess storage would be next, but it is they're both inland drives, so I have an inland 256 gig NVMe down here and a 1 terabyte SATA SSD up here. Don't mind the cable management. This case, I'm pretty sure I found this on like Facebook Marketplace or something for like 20 or 30 bucks, and it works. And then the only thing that I bought brand new for this entire project was this power supply, which is a Lee 550 watt fully modular power supply. I didn't know if I could trust a 450 watt or any of my other power supplies. I wanted something higher quality that met the power requirements that I was going to face. Overall, this would probably come out to be about a $600 to $700 build if you went cheap on the cooler and you bought a less expensive power supply. The combo kit for this, the CPU, memory, and motherboard, is still $114.75 before shipping and before tax. So the only things you would have to actually buy are a graphics card, a power supply, and storage. You don't even have to buy a case. You could put it on the desk if you really, really wanted to be cheap. But you can find a variety of cases out on the market, on the secondhand market, for sometimes free. So you can do modern games with an older platform. But don't take my word for it. Let's go ahead and look at some of the gameplay footage. Alright, starting with Dune Awakening. So with Dune Awakening, flying around in Haga Basin, there were some stutters and some hitches as distant objects and assets were loading in. However, in Haga Basin, that's not really a big issue. As long as you keep it on low or medium settings, you should be fine. I have noticed, however, 8 gig cards tend to struggle in busier, more populated servers, so just keep that in mind. Now, doing one of the testing stations a little bit busier, a little bit more um, in the visual department, the particle effects didn't really affect the stutter or frame rate all that much, even during this boss fight, which I did horribly at. They held pretty close between 50 and 60 frames per second, and I think this is perfectly fine. I did go to the deep desert and check out the stability there as well, but there wasn't a whole lot happening, and it held 60 frames per second pretty well, and the frame times were good too. Next is Helldivers 2. I had to tweak the settings down to medium just to get a consistent frame rate, but it jumped at times whenever a lot of things were going on from 45 to 60 frames a second with fairly okay frame timing. But I wouldn't say that medium is a good setting for this. Probably put it on low and tweak the beauty settings a little bit, and you'll have an okay time. I did have some stutters and frame hitching, but those were very rare, and that was mostly when there were a lot more enemies on screen and a lot more explosions and things happening. But I also have that issue on my RX 6950 XT on my main gaming PC, so I don't think that's an issue specific to just Helldivers 2, but just the engine, and it ran fairly well. Now for MechWarrior 5. MechWarrior 5 did pretty well. I didn't notice any major issues. I had the settings around medium and high. Now, the biggest problem I found was in this particular run mods, and that may have been a me thing, may have been my other players, may have been the mods, but this will run onto this setup perfectly fine. 60 locked, had that in the settings, VSync turned on, everything worked perfect. There's nothing I can say about MechWarrior 5 aside from it works on this build. If you like giant mechs and you are a Battletech fan, go ahead and just grab this. You won't be disappointed in this build. Okay, now for Resident Evil Requiem. Resident Evil Requiem was the first game I played all the way through on this build, and there were two specific areas that gave me some issues. One were a few of the cutscenes, the audio and video desynced, and the frame rate tanked hard. Once I got out of the cutscene, it was fine. However, my understanding was I was not the only one having this issue, and it was a widespread issue with the game before any updates or patches. So just be aware the cutscenes might be a little rough. As for the gameplay, this is a little later on in the game, but I had no perceivable latency, frame timing, or really any performance issue once I got to this point and most of Raccoon City. This was perceivably, and I didn't have the performance monitor up at this time, but it felt like between 50 and 60 FPS. It was consistent, and I had little to no issue playing the game as far as just the performance goes. So in conclusion, I think this is a more than capable system for the price and the effort put into obtaining all of the parts. Again, you don't have to use the same cooler as I did or the same GPU. In fact, I think honestly, if you can find an RTX 3060 12 gig card for a reasonable price, probably no more than 250 bucks, which admittedly in today's PC part economy is going to be very difficult. But if you can find something, or even another RTX 2070, you're going to have a pretty okay time. Now, what are we going to be doing with this now that I'm done with the DDR3 gaming challenge? Well, let's build a server. This is going to be the start of another series of videos, or a series of videos rather, that I've been contemplating doing because of the rise in cost for just about everything. Your cloud services, all of the things you pay for that are owned by someone else. Your Amazons, your Googles, your Microsofts, everyone. And we're going to turn this into that thing that you can use to break free of those things. The first video is going to be unrelated to these parts, but it is more or less done recording, and then I just need to do the production on it. But with all of that said, all of this information thrown at you and my horrible audio and voice, I really appreciate anybody who stuck around, got to this point. Give a like, subscribe, leave a comment, whether I did good, I did bad, any kind of feedback you might have, any projects you might be interested in seeing. I also stream on Twitch and here on YouTube 3 days a week. My schedule is shifting now to being Wednesday, Thursday, Friday streams starting at 8 p.m. Central, and I hope to see you guys there. Until next time, this is Dan, and let's go ahead and give a giant middle finger to all the big tech companies. Until next time, bye.